What's going on, YouTube? It's time to analyze 5 quotes from Constellation Questions talking Starfield Quests with Will Shen. I'm very glad that he did one of these. When it comes to Bethesda, legendary director Todd Howard tends to get most of the publicity, which is great, don't get me wrong, I love hearing from Todd. But they have so many talented people over at Bethesda, so it's nice to get some other perspectives besides just the directors. And I'm especially glad that we got something from Will Shen this time around, because he is a terrific quest designer. Given that it's Will Shen for this one, I think that Emil Pagliarula will probably be the interviewee for the next one. And somewhere down the road, I think we might hear from people like Istvan Pelli and Angela Browder. But right now, it's time to break down 5 quotes from Constellation Questions talking Starfield Quests with Will Shen. And at the end of the video, there's a hint for what the next lore-intensive video I have planned is going to be about. So let's dive in. Jess Finster's first question was, for Starfield, how has the random encounter system been improved or expanded upon, if at all? Will Shen provided some details about the new tech that they're using to create Starfield. So we actually have new tech to take whole locations that we've built and put them on the planets. Now you could say maybe you're going to an outpost and you actually discover there's a whole group of people there with a particular problem. Whereas before it might just be a person coming up to you along the road, now it's an actual whole location that can be put there. This sounds really cool from a tech standpoint. However, I hope that some of the random encounters are the same old NPC comes up to you on the side of the road kind of deal that we're used to. A big part of the charm of random encounters in classic Bethesda games is the simplicity of them. They're a quick but hugely effective way that Bethesda makes use of the world that they've created. When it comes to open world games, really it's the little things that make the world feel real. It's the conversations that you have to listen for, the clutter that you have to go look for, and the little random encounters. And I'm not sure that it'll be the same with these dynamically placed settings. In Will Shen's example, he almost makes it sound like a small quest. So in summary for this quote, I think that this dynamic placement that Will Shen talks about can be cool and can bring something new to the table for random encounters, but I hope that this isn't how all of them are done. I hope that some of Starfield's random encounters are the classic, quick, simple, random thing happening in a random place that adds so much charm to the classic BGS games. Finster then asked him, we can see what looks like Earth's solar system in the Starfield gameplay trailer. Will there be quests taking us back there and exploring how things have changed? Will Shen responded, yeah, actually very early on in the main quest we take you to our solar system, which in our lore is called the Old Neighborhood, and you'll be sent there on a mission from Constellation to discover the mysteries of the artifacts, and you'll get in contact with the question of what happens to Earth. But also you'll go to Mars, and there's actually a settlement, one of the early settlements that humanity created after they left Earth. It's called Sidonia. So obviously a lot to unpack here, but the major thing to discuss here is the question, what happens to Earth? Will Shen seemingly implies that this is one of Starfield's major mysteries, which of course I'm taking a huge interest in. So because of the way this is set up for us, this is the kind of thing where a lot of people might over-assume some things, so let's break this down a bit to make sure that we're all on the same page. Will Shen phrases this as what happens to Earth. From that, most people will likely assume that he means that something happened to Earth that made it so everyone had to leave and thus got out into space and created the settled systems. However, we don't know that that is exactly what he means. Will doesn't specify the who, what, when, or why. He only gives us the where. So this event could have happened before the humans left Earth, or it could have happened long after most of the population left, and everything in between. Here's what we can safely discern from Will Shen's quote. Something happens to Earth at some point in Starfield's lore, and the details are a mystery. One big question that I have is, how is it that the people of Starfield don't know what happened to Earth? It's sci-fi, and they have computers, and they have space travel, so how is it possible that no one knows what happened to Earth? Could the idea here be that someone or something intervened to erase all knowledge of what happened to Earth? Or perhaps it's like the disappearance of the Dwemer, where it all just happened so suddenly that no one had time to write a journal entry or something about it. Also, was this a natural disaster of some kind, like a meteor or solar flare maybe? Or did someone or something intentionally cause this event on Earth? Could this be the work of aliens, or perhaps a mystical or divine being? Or did humans cause it? Who knows? Apparently no one. Well, I guess Will knows, but he won't tell. So based on the rest of what Will says, I'm thinking that in Sidonia, people will give us a rundown of what exactly this event we're talking about was, when it happened, and may provide some basic theories about it. Also, maybe the artifacts are involved somehow. All I know for now is that I am so excited to dive into this mystery. Jess then asked about Starfield's factions. How will faction questlines work compared to other BGS games? Can we join multiple factions and complete all of them like in Skyrim, or does joining one lock you out of certain others like in Fallout 4? Will had this to say about the factions. He started by confirming that the main quest will kinda give us a tour of the settled systems and will introduce us to each faction. Then he said, we also discussed really early on like, okay, do we make some of the factions be in conflict with each other, and we decided we really want to make sure that you can play through all the faction lines independently of each other. This answer really surprised me. Will Shen seems to be saying that none of the factions are mutually exclusive to any others, so we can join both the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective, and also the Crimson Fleet. That's not what I was expecting. I didn't think that all of them would be exclusive to each other, but I certainly thought that some of them would be. So what's the takeaway from this? Well, based on the rest of what Will said, I think that the factions will have a lot of internal conflict. Bethesda's having us steer the wheel from inside each of the factions to influence them rather than having us steer the factions into each other, which is very different from how factions were done in Fallout 4 and Skyrim. In those games, even when a faction wasn't exclusive with any others, you still didn't really have a say in how they ended up at the end of the questline. There was a path and you were on it. And recently, a lot of fans have expressed a desire for that to change. They want more power in what factions actually do, which could be a nice change of pace from just following one path like we're used to. Personally, I hope the main questline with Constellation and the side quests are really what's going to keep Starfield interesting rather than the factions, because that would be a nice change of pace from Fallout 4. Really, Fallout 3 was all about the side content, and a lot of people really love that about that game. But you know, factions are great too, so I can't wait to experience all the quests that Starfield has to offer, faction, side, or main. Finster's next question was, what will the role of some of the companions be during quests? Will talked about how companions have opinions, which really has been the case in other BGS games as well. Then he said, so you might have a companion with you and you'll be challenged. Someone will tell you that you can't get through here, and you can actually turn to your companion and say, hey, actually, could you handle this? And they'll actually speak on your behalf, and there could be consequences, good or bad, for what they have to say. And all the usual things you would expect from followers, right? And they'll follow you into danger, you can trade equipment with them, and they'll also be crewing your ship, which is new, so they'll be helping out in your ship as well. Overall, this doesn't sound like too big a technological leap from Fallout 4's companions, but they've done a bit more with the concept in Starfield. I wish they had spent more time on the concept of your ship's crew. That's something I think fans are really interested in, especially the ones that really go all out in the sandbox features of BGS games. I'm envisioning that we'll be assigning NPCs to various jobs around the ship, kinda like how settlements work in Fallout 4, but I'm hoping that Starfield's version will be much, much better. In Fallout 4, really the settlements feel like what they are, very, very limited sandboxes. And that's especially evident when it comes to the NPCs. The settlements we build never really feel real because the NPCs have such a limited capacity to interact with what we've built. So hopefully Bethesda has found ways to improve upon the flaws of Fallout 4's sandbox to create Starfields. Maybe NPCs will have unique lines based on what they're assigned to, or if we're lucky, maybe even unique animations. So another question I have is, how do ships differ from outposts in regard to NPCs? Is there one pool of NPCs in the game that are available for us to recruit and assign to either the ship or an outpost? Or are there two different pools for the ship and outposts? I personally hope it's the former. I like that customizability. Another thing that I dislike about Fallout 4's sandbox is that really I end up with the same settlement regardless of where it is, because the level 4 merchants of course always have their specialty jobs, and it's always the same pool of 30 or so NPCs that live in the place. So how can this be fixed for Starfield? Well, to start, what if there was no equivalent of level 4 merchants, as in there's never any benefit or drawback in what you assign the NPCs to, and the pool of NPCs that we have to choose from is huge, like maybe 100 or 150 NPCs. That way we would really be able to customize our ships and outposts differently for each playthrough. So yeah, in summary, I hope that Bethesda has found ways to improve the sandbox feature future for Starfield. Particularly, I hope that they feel more real than the settlements we can make in Fallout 4. Jess's final question was, will NPCs react in different ways depending on how the player completes the quest? He started by essentially just saying yes, then he added, and for a few of the storylines, and including the main quest, who ends up with you at the end, right? There you'll be determining the fates of sometimes whether someone lives or dies, whether someone's still in the faction or decides to leave the faction. There's a lot of different things that'll happen. So we can read into how some storylines can end based on how he responded, because he wasn't being hypothetical, he gave specifics. As in, he's not making up an example, he's citing specific endings from storylines within the game. So one possible ending to at least one of the quest lines is determining whether someone lives or dies. Perhaps this is the player passing a sentence on someone that broke a faction's rules or otherwise betrayed their peers in some way. Another possible ending to at least one quest line is determining whether someone stays in a faction or decides to leave. The way Will words this makes it sound like a character within the given faction is thinking about leaving and the player will influence their decision. As in, they're not being banished by the player, and they're autonomously choosing between staying or leaving. So why would someone leave a faction? Well, I think this will have to do with the decisions that the player makes throughout the given faction's questline. Earlier, Will talked about how the player steers the factions toward different goals and ideals, so I'm thinking that this NPC that's thinking about leaving a faction may be doing so because they don't agree with the direction the player chose to steer the faction in. Which I think is cool. I like how that would have consequences that would change the experience for the player. One thing that some people criticize about Skyrim is that very little of what the player actually does has any significant impact on the world, or at least how it's experienced by the player. So Bethesda may be responding to that criticism here by giving us, the players, more of an impact on how things end up at the end of Starfield's questlines. So fellas, that's it for this video. We just talked about 5 quotes from Constellation Questions talking Starfield Quests with Will Shen. As promised, here's a hint about what the next lore-intensive video I have planned will be about. What have we here? Subscribe if you want to find out. Also, please like and share this video, it really helps me out a whole lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.